Hey, what's up everybody? Eric Wong here, and today is the first video in what I'm thinking about is going to be a 5-part video series on nutrition. And specifically, we're going to talk about something that I call Nutritionitsu, and it's just kind of a collection of principles and ideas surrounding nutrition that I've come up with. I came up with it a long time ago, actually, in maybe about 2009. I first wrote about Nutritionitsu, wrote a little ebook, little PDF, which I've put down below for you to download, and you can read through it. But since then, I've kind of, I guess, upgraded some of the concepts, learned a lot of different things, and even simplified things a little bit more to make it even easier to apply, because that's what it's all about, application. Now, let's dive right into the content so we don't spend too much time talking today. Okay, so the very first thing I want to share with you is the Nutritionitsu food pyramid. And this is a lot different than the traditional government food pyramid or Canada's food guide, all that kind of stuff. And as you can see, there are 5 levels. And at the bottom, you've got whole natural food. Up above that, you've got you as an eater. Above that, you've got macronutrients, then micronutrients, then DNA. And we're going to talk about all these different levels of the pyramid, starting with the very bottom, whole natural food. Now, I've put it at the bottom of the pyramid for an obvious reason, and that's because whole natural food is the foundation to any successful diet. If you could take a pill and live healthy and perform to your best, then people would be doing that already, but it's not possible. We've got to be eating whole natural food because there's so many different things with respect to whole natural food that you're not going to get in a pill. You could take the most comprehensive multivitamin that's trying to simulate what an apple is, but you're not going to get everything that you're going to get with that apple. So let's talk about this a little bit deeper now. So like I said, this is the bottom of the pyramid here, and it forms the foundation, and you can see it little representation on the right here, but this forms the bottom. And there's a lot of talk about the paleo diet lately. There's some people bashing the paleo diet, but the paleo diet is essentially whole natural food, and that's awesome. I think it's great. And there's a lot of the paleo advocates, guys like Rob Wolf. They're talking about how to tweak it for athletes. That's kind of what I'm going to be sharing with you when you get up the pyramid a little bit. But whole natural food, essentially, it's very simple. We don't need to complicate this anymore. It's fresh meat. You cook. And fresh produce. That could be fruits, vegetables, anything from a tree and from the ground that you can basically pick and then eat. Okay, so that's the very fundamentals of it. But we can get a little bit deeper in here just to kind of dissect and understand what really whole natural food is and what's not whole natural food. So some of the things that aren't whole natural food. So basically, you can put it quite simply, man-made shit. All right? So that is not whole and natural. And this includes artificial flavors, colors. We got pesticides here. That's man-made shit for the most part. We got antibiotics, hormones. Get those jacked cows pumping out, 10 times the amount of milk that they used to back in the day. Okay, we got GMOs. That's definitely man-made. And let me sneak this guy in through here. We have preservatives. Okay, so this is all man-made stuff that is added to this stuff to make it less whole, less natural. Okay, all these things. And typically, you find these things on the ingredients list of a packaged food. When you go buy meat, say you buy a chicken leg, there's no ingredients list because the only thing that's in there is the chicken leg. But now we've got to think about this other stuff that doesn't make it on the ingredients list. What is that chicken eating? Is he being fed antibiotics? Is he being fed hormones? Is he being fed anything else to help him get bigger or mature faster? And the answer is probably yes, okay? So we've got to think about that. We're going to talk about that in a second. Obviously produce, that's where you're getting this other stuff. Pesticides, GMOs, you got to think about that kind of thing, all right? And I'm going to make it really simple for you to kind of take action on next, okay? And then anything that's processed, right now, artificial flavors and colors, all right? So basically anytime you're adding stuff to foods, you're taking it away from the optimal level, which is fresh meat that you cook, fresh produce from the tree or ground. All right, so anytime you process something, you cook something, you prepare something, you're taking it one step away. And that doesn't necessarily make it bad. I mean, you can't eat raw beef all day and expect to be super healthy. All right? So we've got to think about what levels of processing of our foods keep it as close to this whole natural state as possible. Now, obviously, cooking meats, anytime you're broiling, pan frying, barbecuing, things like that, that's very natural. You add some natural spices, salt, pepper, rosemary, whatever it is you're cooking, that stuff is all natural stuff that you're adding to natural stuff, and you're just preparing it, cooking it, that's good to go. Vegetables, you can eat them raw for the most part, steam them, pan fry them, stir fries, things like that. That's still only one step away from the whole natural state. Okay, but here's an example. I got this package of bread here, and this is really good bread. This is from a company here in Toronto, Shasha, and they make, I guess, artisan breads, they call it. But let me read you the ingredients here. We got whole wheat flour, filtered water, sourdough, which is made of wheat flour, filtered water, and bacterial culture, sprouted wheat, sea salt, sprouted rye, rolled oats, flaxseed, buckwheat, spelt flour, millet, kamut flour, amaranth flour, and pumpkin seed. And it's saying a lot of this stuff is organic. All right? So this stuff, did you hear any of these things in here? Artificial flavors, colors? No. Pesticides, antibiotics, hormones, GMOs? No, because it's organic. A lot of the stuff was organic. Preservatives, no preservatives. You got to keep it in the fridge, otherwise it'll go bad pretty quickly. So you think, okay, this is pretty whole and natural. Now, let's think about the processing though. How did you get this? Like, what is this made of? Number one ingredient, whole wheat flour. You get the wheat in the ground, growing out of the ground. You don't just take it and then crush it up and make bread. There's a little more going on there. So you've got to take the wheat, you've got to process that wheat into wheat flour. And then you've got to take that wheat flour, mix it with all this other stuff, all these other ingredients, and then you got to stick it in the oven, bake it, and then you get this. All those levels of processing, what they do is they basically break down the initial product to make it palatable or digestible for you. And sometimes it's necessary. I mean, you can't just go and eat wheat from the farmer's field, raw, okay? Unless you want some irritable bowel syndrome or something. But that takes some processing. So that is already doing the digesting and the processing for you that your body would normally do. With this, what happens, especially because this is a carbohydrate, and we're going to talk about that when we talk about macronutrients a little bit, but this is going to be digested faster because it's processed already, and because it's carbohydrate, that's going to spike something called insulin, which if you're constantly spiking your insulin, eating processed foods, sugars, things like that, easy, simple carbohydrates, processed carbohydrates, that tends to lead to fat storage and suboptimal performance. However, there are specific times where you want that kind of thing. You want that spike in insulin because that's a storage hormone. It forces your body to store, take in nutrients and store them. So after a workout, that is a great thing to do. We're going to talk about that again when we get to the macronutrients set level of the pyramid. Okay, but that's just going to show you the difference between something that's whole and natural and taking it down a couple steps. So there's different levels of whole and natural. Obviously, an apple, you go grab the apple from the tree, you can bite into it right away, and you can eat it, digest it, and it's good for you. Wheat flour, that's not going to happen. You got to go, you got to cut it down, you got to process it into wheat flour, and then you got to bake the bread. Mix it with all these different ingredients, bake the bread, and then you have this. More processing, still good, still better than white flour, still better than something that's got a bunch of preservatives like BHT or sodium nitrates or stuff like that. But gotta think about those different levels. The more your diet is comprised of whole natural food, typically the better off you are. And every successful diet, every popular diet is always, for the most part, based on whole natural food. Okay? So that is why that is at the bottom. That is why that is the foundation of Nutrition Itsu. Okay, so hopefully that you understand a little bit more about the difference between whole natural food and something, and the fact that there's different levels to that. It's not just black and white, but there's a few shades of gray going down. And the closer you are to the initial state of whole natural, typically the better off you are. If you just operate from that kind of paradigm of whole natural food is typically better than more processed and more chemically laden foods, then you're going to be able to make a lot easier and a lot quicker and faster and better decisions with respect to what you're eating on an everyday basis. You don't have to think about all these different rules. All the different rules, they come higher up on the pyramid. But this is the 80%. This is where you spend most of your efforts and you're going to get most of the results. And everything after that is just tweaking. Okay? So in the next pyramid, the next level of the pyramid, I've got you as an eater. And this is one of my favorite topics to discuss because it's something that's not often discussed when we talk about nutrition, we talk about diet, and it's something that can take everything and make you work it. Because that's the biggest thing, is sticking to it. Most of us know what to do. Most of us know whole natural food. There's a couple little things that we've got to understand and learn a bit more about, but in terms of knowledge, we're not lacking the knowledge to eat well and eat to support health, performance, and the body that we want. Okay, so that's in the next video that we're going to talk about, is you as an eater. All right, so I hope that you guys enjoyed this initial video on Nutrition Itsu, and we've got lots more coming for you. So just down below, like I said, I've got my original ebook that I wrote for you, Nutrition Itsu. You can read through there. One section on whole natural food you could go into a little bit more depth in is the oils and processing oils. It's just another example to help you understand this concept a little bit better. All right, guys? So thanks again for checking me out. Make sure you check back tomorrow where we discuss you as an eater. All right, guys? Thanks, and I will talk to you soon. Peace.